Hi, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the SoCal Prep Report. Richard Sterling with Randy Rosenbluth and Bob Gibson. Happy you joined us today. And we're coming to you from what we like to call Tavern on the Green. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas, along with Tony Kornheiser over here.
Boy, he's changed.
Kornheiser.
Yeah,
I can't get any better than Kornheiser.
30 years ago, though. You
right?
look like
all
Tony
right.
30 years ago.
He must have had hair back then. Yeah.
He must have.
Kornheiser never looked that good. Right?
Oh,
I'm always defending Bob Gibson.
Well, let's be in truth. We are coming to you from the Yard House in Brea.
Yes.
Yes.
Today's little roundtable discussion, Mo Orr is going to join us shortly. But we're going to start off the top of the hour with Randy Rosenbluth, who's going to talk to us about what the heck is going on in the city section. You got two schools, Garfield and Roosevelt, that have the biggest rivalry in the country. They have the biggest attendance of anybody attending in the country. And now we got even more reason to watch this game this year, as if you needed one.
Well, you know what's interesting about this game? In recent years, Roosevelt has not really been able to compete with Garfield. Garfield's won it really almost the entire decade. It's been almost 10 years since Roosevelt's won a game. And last year got a little bit more competitive. Both teams had terrific football teams. Garfield won the regional championship. They went to the Open Division final and lost to Narbonne. It was great. Had a terrific season, and they were quarterbacked by Jonathan Batista, and that's our storyline. Roosevelt started to turn its program around with Aldo Peral running that veer offense. They went 7-4, and even though they were in the same Eastern League and lost a hard-fought game to Garfield, they did go to the Division II championships and lost in the final to Locke 22-20. So Roosevelt's in the right direction. They're getting better. Now's where the storyline turns. Jonathan Batista recently said, I'm transferring from Garfield to Roosevelt. And he's taking with him wide receiver Jimmy Romero. They were both terrific sophomores last year. Romero caught a couple touchdown passes. Batista threw for over 1,500 yards, threw for 15 scores. But how intriguing is the East L.A. Classic going to be next year? Now, Lorenzo Hernandez was nice about it, saying, I guess everything seems to be above board here, but it's just going to really ramp that rivalry up that much more.
I guess the question is why?
I don't know.
They didn't. So nothing was said. No reason. Not a falling out with the coach or the coaching staff.
I talked to the section. It's mysterious. But you ask yourself, why would Batista and the receiver, after their sophomore year, get to the Open Division Championship, beat a great Kennedy team from Delano and win the regional championship, and walk away? He was going to be the starting quarterback again. He's terrific. Other than Garcia at Narbonne, I rank him as the second best quarterback in the entire LA City section. Jonathan Batista can play. And now I give Roosevelt a chance in that rivalry game next year. But like you say, every guy on that Garfield team is going to be gunning for Jonathan Batista.
The Bulldogs are going to be fired up for this game this year, as if they weren't already.
They don't need another reason to be fired up.
No, they just found one, though.
Yeah.
Double fired up to get
They'll need it.
doing this.
They'll need it now. This whole thing sounds personal to me. Somebody got in this kid's ear, decided to take his buddy with him. As you mentioned, Randy, Roosevelt runs a wing tee. Wing tee does not throw the ball. You don't throw the ball on the wing tee. The teams in the nation with the highest ground game average per game, per season, per career are the wing tee guys because they run. They only have 4 plays in their arsenal. Run left, run right, run straight ahead, and throw a Hail Mary if you need. That's it. So I don't understand, if you had great success throwing the ball, why would you transfer to a place that's going to run the ball?
It doesn't make sense, but I'll tell you what it will do. The East L.A. Classic, and Rich touched upon it, it's the best rivalry west of the Mississippi in football. The attendance has been going down in recent years.
But everybody's going down. In the interest of fairness, it's going down across the board.
Yeah, but
nationwide.
Garfield's dominated the game so much. That's one of the reasons. The Roosevelt fans don't believe they can win it. Now with those two kids coming over there, and with the team coming back that had won 9 games. Now Garfield's going to be strong anyway, even without Batista. Now both sides are going to have reason to believe they can win the East L.A. Classic next year.
True.
And then you add the extra element of Batista switching schools with Romero, the wide receiver. East L.A. College will be hopping when those two teams play.
Well, and if you think the Roosevelt offense, wasn't going to throw this, probably because they didn't have anybody to throw the ball. Now they do.
So Bob, those guys are committed to it. I'm going
to guess you're going to take that kid into your offense now, and you're going to find a package of plays where they're going to pass the football now, right? I mean, the coach has got to say, hey, look, now I have a kid. I can go downfield, and I've got this receiver coming with him. You don't think they're going to utilize that?
Just double him up.
They're going to utilize
Put the safety over that kid, and it's over.
And he's capable of running too. He's a great quarterback. I mean, this kid, we're billboarding him right now. Jonathan Batista can play.
Well, they're all great athletes, right? They're all great athletes.
And Roosevelt will be a factor. The East L.A. Classic is back.
Every quarterback is a great athlete, right? They can all, because that's your best guy. Your quarterback. They're all good. They can all run. They can all throw for the most part.
Interesting. We're going to see how this plays out. It's crazy. It's only what? We're in April.
I know, right? We're already talking about stuff happening in October.
You got to talk football.
And it's not happening to modern day Bosco, Jason. It's not happening to anybody that's really.
Enough of them coming up.
It's a good old East L.A. story, man, and it's going to get better. We're going to follow this one up.
We like it.
I expect to be all kinds of craziness to go on between now and then. Hey, real quick, we'd like to thank our sponsors for today. The KM3 Project, of course, we talk about them always. They do great things for people with cancer. They help you pay your bills if you're running low. This is a good organization to support. Also like to thank the Yard House in Brea, where we are coming to you from today. This is not Tavern on the Green. Mo, I mean, Randy took half the food with him. He's doggy bagging it, man.
He's out of here with that
pretzel
so quick.
man?
I don't know. I was trying to get some of them food, and he wouldn't let me have any food.
He's crazy, man. Anyways, welcome back. We're talking roundtable today, and one of the things, fellas, I was looking at over the weekend was the college admission scandal. Was a month ago. We've been chewing on that for a while, and then we had Avenetti last week come back and say, look, Nike's been still paying guys, so what's going on. And then you guys are at the Boras Classic. We all know what Scott Boras is about. I will speak to it because I'm not involved with it at all, but we all know who Scott Boras is. He's the guy that's trying to destroy baseball. That's how baseball looks at it, because he fights hard for his clients to get them what he thinks is best for them, which is truly what's best for Scott Boras. I mean, come on, let's not kid ourselves. He gets a percentage. The higher he gets, the more he makes. But again, he has this classic now in Southern California, and I believe the reason he has that is simply he's farming for young talent. They're going to remember the name of the tournament, and his people are there watching, and I'm sure he'll follow them and try to make contact, because this has been done before. This is not the first time something like this happened regionally somewhere in the United States. It's been here, and so I've seen this before.
Well, I've talked with people affiliated with the Boras, the Boras, Corporation, and the Boras Foundation is set up, for this tournament. And the one thing that they talk about is, there's so many gurus and people out there who are ready to take your $1,000 check and try to make you the next great athlete. Well, what Scott Boras says is, hey, this is a free tournament, and it is. It doesn't cost the teams, the players, anything to come play in this tournament. Just come play, and then you're going to have college scouts and pro scouts all out there. So, if you're a good enough player and you can play somewhere, look, they're going to have a place for you somewhere. You're going to get seen out here. Is the whole point of it.
Don't you think you have an advantage? You're the organizer of the tournament, Bob. You have everybody's ear.
Sure,
You're giving
why not?
them gear and stuff like that. It's influence.
We know what Scott Boras does for a living, right? I mean, that's so eventually maybe a couple of these players, maybe sign on with Scott Boras as their agent if they're going to be a professional player. But that's so far down the road. He's trying to, and I'm just speaking from what's been told to me. Hey, this is a chance to get these young players in front of college scouts, professional scouts, so they have a chance, especially the college scouts, because let's face it, most of these kids will never play professional baseball. But if they can get into college, if they can get a scholarship somewhere, if they can get an education, then you know what? That's going to help them, down the line. The professional thing, that's crazy. That's a pipe dream for most.
True,
but get them into college if you can. And so that's what he's saying. His goal is to help these kids get noticed and get the opportunity to get to the next level.
He's looking for the next Manny Machado or Hamlin or the other guy, the kid that just signed.
Of course, Bryce
Harper. Yeah, because
right.
he just got done signing guys to $630 million a
That's what he does for a living.
He's going to make $60 million on the deal. So putting on this class, he's looking for the next one.
But honestly, if I was to play devil's advocate, what's wrong with him putting on this event? If he doesn't do it, somebody else is going to do it.
Yep.
The kids looking and they know the name. They still getting the opportunity. Yes, it's ultimately for him. But at the end of the day, the kids are still going to be seen by somebody. They're going to have an opportunity to go to higher education. And, I guess you can look at it both ways.
That's the short of it. My thing is this. You got people willing to spend $6.5 million to get their kids in college. They're willing to cheat using sports to do it. Again, the higher the higher the game, the more money gets thrown into it. And this Nike extravaganzas, these Boras Classics, stuff like this, such high-profile events. Again, you got guys looking at athletes, trying to get a leg up. It's all about business, in my opinion. And man, at the high school level, it's getting worse and worse because there's so much cheating going on. And the Southern Section really is impotent to do anything about these things anymore. They really can't. That's why they have to give in and say, you can transfer and play anywhere you want. People out there trying to sue left and right. You can only fight so many lawsuits, man. You run out of money. So now we're giving in. So the landscape's going to change again. And it's just not fair. It's not level. And stop being shocked when you have these type of events from people and companies trying to like get their brand in an area. And I understand what you're saying, Mo. It's business. It's open.
Yeah.
But look what's happening now. They're paying. When you have a alleged shoe company, and we already know they've been busted before, not just they, paying high school kids, that's a problem, Bob. That's a big problem.
So do we think if we pay the college athletes, this will all go away?
I don't think it has anything to do with paying college athletes. It's just never going to go away because here, it's like anything else. You get into they give you the system. This is what it is, and
right.
People find ways in it. They find the cracks, and they slip through.
Well, that's been happening for as long as there's been money
Absolutely,
and power in
absolutely.
this world.
No, it's just the college admission scandal. And again, Avenatti coming out this last week saying that, and then he's talking about Krzyzewski and Duke. He pointed the finger at Duke. He didn't say anything definitively, but he did point the finger at Duke.
Well, he also pointed out. He said he used Bobo's actual name.
Yeah, he did.
And,
he did.
I could have a problem with that where you're trying to expose. It's still a kid, although he's in college and.
But his mom,
doing
who's
that
not
stuff.
a kid, got the money and should know better. Allegedly. Got the money exactly because what's going to happen is the IRS is coming after everybody. The IRS is just sitting back to see who said I did it, and then they're going to go give him a bill. And then they're going to give him, a jumpsuit and send him to.
But how trustworthy is Michael Avenatti? There's a lot of evidence out there, and a lot of reasons to believe that Michael Avenatti.
Do you hear what he said?
Not exactly
Avenatti. You hear what Bob just said? A lawyer, Bob. He just said a lawyer.
Well,
come on.
Of course, but that's my point.
That's an oxymoron. An honest
okay,
lawyer.
so who you going to believe? Michael Avenatti or Nike?
Aaron Baker's the only honest attorney I know.
That's true.
That's questionable.
But we're talking, this guy's made outrageous allegations in other arenas before. Now we see dipping his foot in this one, saying he's got all this stuff.
He probably does, though.
He's going to run for president. He's
not going to run for president, Bob.
It's outlandish. It's a little ridiculous.
He's not running for
so
president.
He could be president of Nike.
Until we see all this hard evidence where he's got all this, because he's naming names, but let's see the evidence that backs it up.
He's got to have it. He's Avenatti, dude. He's got it.
There's a little bit of smoke, but is there any fire?
All right. Well, my whole thing is just it's getting pretty big now. It's getting pretty noisy. There's a lot of money. I mean, they haven't even got to the bottom of the admission scandal. What was the bottom line of the price? This guy was on tape saying he had over 1,000 clients last year. At 500, 400, 300 grand a pop. That's why Homeboy disappeared. They finally got him, but he disappeared right away. He had enough means to. And you know what? I have a feeling he put all that like milk in. He put that money away somewhere. And when he gets out, it's going to be there for him.
Cayman Islands, right? Somewhere.
Whatever.
Swiss bank account.
They're like, I didn't know you guys were looking for me.
Yeah.
Should have called me.
But anyways, the point is, we're just getting away all the focus on the prep sports now, and people just trying to make a buck, and all this these street agents and everybody else.
Oh yeah.
I can't even keep up with it anymore, Bob. We should quit our jobs now. We should. We
Go
really
to a
should.
new line of work.
All right, let's get off that. Another thing we want to talk about, along with this, though, Bob, is the power struggle with the administration and parents. What was the coach's name from Westlake 2 years ago that stepped down after winning a CIF championship? And then he went, I think he went to Oaks Christian.
Jim Bankert, right?
Yeah. Dude went CIF. His team won like 100 games, and he was there, and he was only there for 2 years, so he won a lot. He was a really good coach, He's a really good coach. But he stepped down because basically he was classy. He said, I got other things to do, and then later on his people were saying like, nah, man, they forced him out because a parent was crying that little Timmy wasn't getting enough playing time, and little Timmy's dad is a big donor to the school. Who cares if the team's any good? Just put the kid out there for the money. He wouldn't do it. We have that again, Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey. Coach Toll, one of the greatest coaches in the United States. I mean, he's got 305 victories when he was fired. 9 state titles in New Jersey, which is not easy to do. It's very competitive back there, man. Anyways, so what happens is he leaves and he goes to Don Bosco Prep's most hated rival. All right, so he goes to Bergen Catholic, and Bergen Catholic's all right, but now that Toll's there, they played Bergen Catholic this last year.
Right. Killed him, right?
Boom! Payback. So the moral of the story is, if you got a great coach, don't let a parent run them out.
Yeah.
Because now Don Bosco Prep is just going to be an afterthought from here this day forward. They'll never be in the top 10 again. Who knows who their coach is now? You had a legend, and you let him go over a parent.
Look, we got a long list of administrators who think they know better than coaches. A couple recently that have happened around these parts.
They're all general managers now.
Very
Bob.
very good coaches have been let go, and you just sort of look at yourself and you go, why? Like, well, why? You know, successful coaches that have had a lot of success, that have done well, and you go, okay, well, you know, I guess the administrator knows better. But I tell you, more times than not, it's proven that, guess what? The administrator did not know better. I mean, we've got a long list of these things, and a lot of times it's a power struggle, personality conflict.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever it is, a new power, player comes in, a new athletic director, somebody wants to create their own, list of coach, whatever.
Yeah.
But
money,
be careful.
money's
You want to chase out a successful coach. Be careful what you wish for.
Here's my experience, and I've had a few of them. Whenever you have a coach, let's take Marion Ansich, for example. Winning the state coach in the state of California, I mean, guy's great, okay? He's passed away recently, but, you have a guy like that. You run him out. They did it at St. Paul, and where did he go? He went to Tustin, and what did they happen to Tustin, who hadn't won in years, Bob?
Right, Tustin hadn't done a
You were
thing
part
in
of
years.
that. You were part of that,
I
by the
was.
way.
I covered that back-to-back, 91 and 92. They played for the CIF championship. Didn't get it done either year, but to point taken that Tustin had been irrelevant in the football world until Marion Ansich showed up.
So he makes my point. So Marion Ansich goes from a very successful career, national championships, CIF championships, every decade he coached there. They run him out. Goes to your place, So it was all basically a new principal came in and didn't like the fact that Marion Ansich was the most powerful man on that campus.
Yeah.
He made all the money for that school. People showing up to the games, paying for rights to televised games, and a lot of other stuff. And he sold out the place because of the reputation. All right? And they ended up having to bring him back 9 years later because they couldn't do a thing without him. So you millennials out there that are becoming principals and this, that, and the other, respect your elders, man. They know something. You got to ride the back of the most powerful football coach in your school. He may be the most popular guy because if he has a successful season, as football season goes, as goes the rest of the school year. And take that from experience.
When you find a coach who knows how to win, you hold on to them, or they're going to go somewhere else and they're going to continue to win. Myron Miller is another great example. He went to Costa Mesa. Now, you kidding me? Football and Costa Mesa do not go together, right? Those two do not go. But he went there and actually took them to a CIF championship game in '92. Nobody had even heard of Costa Mesa High School, but he made it there. Then he left. Where'd he go? Tustin High School, who had been irrelevant again since Marion Ansich had left Tustin. Myron Miller comes in, and we know the rest is history there.
There's a wing T, baby.
More players in the NFL, more players in the NFL from Tustin High School than any other high school in America, and that includes Pauley. At that time, they had more players in the NFL than Pauley did at one time.
Stop acting like Pauley. No. Pauley's the all-time. I know what you're saying. During that 9-year
but during
stretch,
during that stretch, he put more kids in than any other school in America.
Yeah, well.
So you think Myron Miller knows how to coach?
Yeah, no, probably not. I don't know.
He's going to go be the defensive coordinator at Lakewood now.
I love Myron
Side
Miller.
note there for you.
Myron Miller's he is a great coach. He's a legend down there in Australia. Let's take a quick break right now. And I think it's not a break. We got Carlos Pena.
Oh, Carlos.
This is the first of a 3-part series of the lack of officials in the high desert.
Mo.
I'm not going to the high desert.
Let's take a look at the story.
Hi, folks. Welcome to this week's SoCal Prep Report. I'm Carlos Pena, and this week I have a special show, roundtable discussion with Mr. Bill Chris and Coach Doug Odom. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Now, I'm going to start with Mr. Bill. You're part of the referee association in Inland, correct?
Yeah, Inland Football Officials Association.
Okay. Big question. We have a lot of issues going on with the association right now. What are some of the issues we're seeing?
Well, the biggest issue we have, it's been kind of an ongoing issue the last few years, not just in football, but every sport, is we just don't have enough officials to cover the amount of games that are coming on. Like, for instance, now, coming up in the last couple of years, we can't have football games on Friday night because we don't have enough quality officials to cover those games. So people are forced to play on Thursdays or maybe Saturdays. And, of course, that hurts their gait.
It does, it does. Now, Coach, you've been coaching for a very long time. You're used to playing on Fridays.
Right.
How do you feel about that now? You may have some games Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays.
Well, it hasn't affected me too much over the years, occasionally. But to me, the worst aspect is when you end up with a reffing crew that's shorthanded.
Shorthanded,
and they don't have enough that either just don't show up or they weren't able to book enough, and that hinders your experience of what may or may not happen. It doesn't always affect it because you have some very good officials that are able to cover it. Right. But today with the wide open spread offense and everything, you got a lot more ground to cover. And if your crew is shorthanded, they're going to miss something.
So it's a big change, big change from when you started. And I see it. I've seen it last season where a crew was short 1 or 2 refs, and then they let me know, hey, well, we got another game coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Why are we seeing that?
Well, I think the reason why is, number one, we've had a huge increase in the number of schools in not only the high desert, but also throughout the Inland Empire, and they've just been exploding.
Yeah.
The high schools just been exploding. Like, for instance, the high desert used to have Victor, Apple, and Barstow.
Yep.
Hesperia came on in the 70s or 80s, and now every district's got 2 or 3 schools.
Oh, yeah, you got Oak Hills.
Oak
It's
Hills.
a powerhouse right now in football. I mean, you have Granite Hills out there as well.
Right.
Yeah, true. The high desert is exploding. How do we stay on top of that as a referee?
We do a lot of things to try to stay on top of it. We have a website that if someone goes in and says, become a high school referee, it'll take them right to our website, and then we can get them enrolled. And as a secretary, I keep track when they show an interest that they want to be an official. I keep track of their name, their email, their phone number, all that kind of stuff. And I keep track of that. I keep asking them for several years if they want to do it. Right. Another thing is things like this that helps promote us. Another thing, we use social media a lot. Instagram, Facebook, to try to get the word out that this is available. We do a lot of different things. I actually have worked it out so I can speak to several government econ classes throughout the high desert from the aspect of seniors. This is a great thing when you get out of high school for your first part-time job.
Right.
A lot of students now, they do a part-time job at one of the fast food places. They got an interview, they got to go back, they got to
So the turnover rate is just...
So with us, all they have to do is apply and pay the money, and we'll be good.
Yeah,
get them started.
Now, after so many years, you get used to seeing certain refs. You develop a kind of, a rapport with them. Now you're seeing new faces all the time.
Right.
Is that difficult as a coach?
It is. You have to reacquaint yourself, and you do as much as you can. There's always a pregame greet and meet, and and then you go over whatever you can to ease the pain of what's coming up.
Right.
But yeah, this has always been a problem. It's but with the proliferation of so many more schools and small schools, charter schools, it's just mushroomed.
Right.
In my mind, I've always seen this as a problem, and again, refereeing is pretty much a thankless job, and so I've always wondered, what keeps them involved? Is it worth their time? And apparently, more and more, it's not. It's not a full-time job. It doesn't pay quite a bit, and they don't get a lot of praise. They get a lot of grief, So you got to admire them when they stick with it and they do a good job, because we can't play without it. We can't.
You bring up a very good point there. Is as a head coach and you have your assistant coaches, when something does happen on the field, I mean, what is the best way to react? I mean, I see a lot of coaches going after refs. Hey, but
yeah, you got to maintain your cool. I mean,
yeah.
Again, there's a matter of dignity involved.
Right.
mistakes will be made. They will always be made, and you have to be ready to deal with them. And again, I've learned this in Little League. You can't argue with a ref because they're never going to change their mind. But so you have to voice your opinion, and sometimes you have to correct them, knowing that they're not going to change the call, but it won't happen again.
Right,
That's what you can hope for.
Now, obviously it's a team effort. Let's talk about a call on the field. What's the best approach coming to a referee and say, hey, I think you might want to take a look at that? I mean, I know it happens.
It does. The best thing you can do is be honest with the coach when you go to report the foul. We teach honesty is the best policy. Professionalism as an official in meeting that person. We do some other things like we only interact with the head coach. We don't interact with assistants. That simplifies things a lot, and that makes sure we're dealing with the person who has set the parameters for their team, the expectations for their team. But when we have to report a foul that we know they're not going to like, even if it's the right foul, it might be at a very inopportune time, we just be honest, straightforward, and the whole idea is you build that communication right from when you step on the field. You don't wait until there's a call that is controversial before you try to build a rapport. You build that professionalism between you and coach right from the get-go.
Now, part of the golden rule is you always give the benefit to the person who's earned respect.
Right.
What can you say about that?
Well, I always feel like you gotta give respect to earn respect, but there's a lot of things non-verbally that we teach that you can do, and that is don't get yourself in a controversial adversarial position. So when I have to talk to a coach, like when I have to talk to you this fall, Coach Doug, Coach Odom, I'm not going to talk to you head to head. I'm going to talk to you a little bit off the side, so it doesn't, we pay attention to our body language, hands to the side or behind or anything like that. None of this kind of stuff, anything like that. We just try to be professional at all times, and that helps a lot when you do that.
And I've always done that, and I was taught that years ago, is that if you're going to speak to a ref, you go out to speak to him. You don't do it by your bench or the kids want to hear, or even your assistants. You get out and have a private conversation with them, so you can hammer it out there.
I see it a lot with the young coaches. Grab the coach on their sideline. That already is creating that friction.
Right, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Meet them out there where it's one-on-one.
Another thing we do to try to keep it simple is the wing official has total autonomy to interact with that one coach. So now we don't want to feel ganged up by a coaching staff, but we don't want that coach to feel ganged up by 2 or 3 officials coming in.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you see that quite a bit where it's just one official trying to convey what's just happened and everybody's going on them, and that's not healthy for the game.
No, and it's actually kind of a premise all the way up. There are certain officials that are assigned to interact with coaches, and that's their job. That's part of their expectation.
Right. Okay. Gentlemen, this is a very interesting topic. There's so much we can cover here. We can talk for hours. Rich's not here; he can talk for hours. But thank you so much for that bit of information. Folks, we have a lot more to talk about. In the next coming episodes, please join us, and I'll have both these guests here, and we'll talk a little bit more on other topics as far as referees and coaches and what to expect out in the field.
All right, fellas, let's once again thank our sponsors for today. Of course, Mo, thanks for bringing us here to the Yard House, man. Always a good time here. The food was excellent. I'm so full right now, I didn't even want to do the show.
I want more ravioli. What do you mean?
Holy man, that lobster with beef. Anyways, I'd like to thank you, and also like to thank the KM3 Project. That's it for today, man. We are out of time. We didn't even get to the best story, Bob.
All right, next week.
People are suing.
Next week.
More lawsuits in high school. I love it. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. On behalf of Mo Orr, Bob Gibson, I'm Richard Stray saying so long from my friends here at the SoCal Prep Report. Goodbye from the Yard House in Brea.